The whole thing started out with great. Our chemistry was undeniable. Of all the fucking shitty dates I have had in the past, this one was going places. And what I mean with going places is to the bedroom. We were passionately kissing. He lifts me up, walks me to the bedroom, and throws me on the bed. And that's when my romantic, sweet, and charming British man turned into Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Bam! He starts ramming into me behind like he has a point to prove. He's moving my body around and contortioning it like I'm a puppet. Totally disconnected from me. It felt like I had a paper bag over my face. After we were done, or after he was done rather, he rolls off of me, gives me a quick peck on the cheek, lays in bed with his arms around behind his neck, looking up at the sky and says, "I'm pretty sure you came." I'm pretty sure I didn't. So what did I do? And also, how many of us can relate to a situation like this? Can I see some hands? Okay. It's not something I share by myself. So what did I do? Did I say, "Hey dude, no, you can't just ram into somebody from behind and expect them to orgasm"? Of course not. I said nothing, and I bitched about it to my friends the next day at brunch. Now, why didn't I speak up? Why didn't I say, "My pleasure is valid"? Well, as a woman, I never learned my pleasure was valid. How could I know that I was going to speak up? This is where shame, our own insecurities, and society's expectations or lack thereof of us get in the way. But I am here to change that narrative because I will not be a passenger in my own sex life anymore, and neither will you. I'm Jess. I'm a creative director, cartoonist. I'm a shower head lover. I do feel bad about the water waste, but I am. And I'm the CEO of Living Shamelessly. But I did not always start this way. I moved to the Netherlands almost a decade ago, but almost 9 years ago, and I moved during a heartbreak without a job and found myself living illegally with 17 Dutch housemates. I was in my mid to late 20s, and that's not where I had expected to be. And it was taking a lot longer than I had thought it would to, one, get over my heartbreak, and two, to find a job. And it started to look a little bit depressing. I was feeling extremely embarrassed about my situation, and I was just feeling pretty damn sorry for myself. But rather than stay in this place of embarrassment, I thought, why not change this into an empowerment? And I had an idea. For the next year, every day, I'm going to turn my embarrassing, shameful, awkward, cringy, shitty moments into empowered, funny stories, rife with self-deprecating humor in the beginning. They got more empowered as they went on. And Vanillacooldance was born. It's a cartoon community where I draw about everything taboo, from nipple hair, my nipple hair, to period sex, pegging, to STDs. I can't think of the list goes on and on. What does my vulva look like? Anything that you think as a taboo topic, I try to create a safe, shameless space to have those conversations. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I've learned from my experience with my community over the years. But first, I want to talk about why is there so much shame around female pleasure. And Jess just gave, of course, a very great history into this, and so I think we're all feeling, very knowledgeable about this. So I'll just highlight a few. But at least from my perspective, this is what I grew up in the 90s with the male gaze. We had our Burger King ads insinuating giving a blowjob. We had Girls Gone Wild as kind of the raunch feminist movement, but it was controversially exploiting women and objectifying women. We had the Girls Next Door and the Playboy bunnies, and just teens gone wild. So it was not a great time to grow up in terms of feeling empowered as a woman. Also, the porn that we were watching back then, again to Jess's point, heteronormative, not diverse, not inclusive, one type of vulva, everyone orgasming from penetration alone. The stereotyped presence for the male gaze. We also had a lack of proper sex education. Herpes, today's scarlet letter. Do you know how many people have herpes? It's an incredibly common STD to have, but it's villainized here and it's made into a fear-mongering message. Do you know when the clitoris was fully mapped? Who knew this was what the clitoris looks like? Okay, well that's very good. But what year do you think this was fully mapped?
2020.
Okay, well, society's a little bit better than that, I guess, in the world. But it wasn't until 2005 that they fully mapped the clitoris. A woman did this. And why is that? Because so little is known about the female anatomy. Everything has been based on the male anatomy. I also grew up thinking that I could orgasm from penetration because when I learned about sex, that was intercourse, which is funny because for so many, intercourse isn't even a part of the equation and you can still have sex. So I thought that I was meant to have an orgasm from penetration when only around 15% of people with a vulva can have an orgasm that way. And then lastly, we never learned to talk about sex. We need to talk about sex. So here is what I have learned that has helped me and I hope can help you. You have to know yourself first. So I direct you back to Jess's first presentation where you can learn all about how to fuck yourself. But if you do not know what feels good to you, how are you going to communicate it to somebody? It's narrowing your own experience to what somebody else thinks you might like. You have to get familiar with your own body. I think toys are a really great way of doing this. And also, if you had a bad experience with the toy, that's not your toy. It doesn't mean that you don't like all vibrators, okay? There's so many, I had like 20 vibrators in that picture. There are so many different toys. Find the one you like. Yes, go on my Instagram and look at 31 different ideas for this month of learning about self-pleasure. But we have to take it a step further, because just because you do know what you like does not mean you are confident enough to talk about it. It's awkward, it can be uncomfortable, and it's really fucking scary if you haven't done it yet. But it is so important. How many people have had somebody ask in the bedroom, tell me what you like, or what do you like? Have we all had it at least one time? Okay. And who has ever responded back with, oh, I don't know, whatever you like, or what you're doing is great. You're doing great. What a fucking missed opportunity that is. That person is asking, how can I know your body better? How can I get to know you better? How can I find out what you like? And you are not providing them with the answer. We have to speak up. There are 1,000 things. I want you to kiss my neck. I want you to eat my pussy. I want you to suck on my feet, cuddle me, caress me. Think about, just give them something, And the same goes for your partners. This is not exclusive to a woman's plight. Nobody taught any of us how to talk about this. So it goes both ways, and approach it with curiosity. And if your partner is not openly sharing it with you, you come back to it at another moment, because it is a conversation that needs to happen. Second point I'm talking about it. You cannot give a Rubik's Cube to a stranger and be like, hey, figure this out in 30 seconds. So why are we giving our bodies to a stranger and saying, hey, figure me out in 30 seconds. You don't know anything about me or what I like, but I'm going to leave my pleasure in your hands. You cannot say the sex was terrible when you didn't communicate what you like, okay? Nobody is bad at sex or good at sex, okay? Sex is a dance between two people. That involves communication. You wouldn't go to the Starbucks and expect the barista to know that you want a pumpkin spice latte with soy milk and double sugar and an extra shot of espresso. So why would you walk into a bedroom and expect your partner to read your mind and to know what you like? You have to communicate. You have to give them a chance. Most of the time, your partner will want to, and if not, they are a fucking asshole, and then you know faster. But it's not easy. So these are kind of my favorite ways, and I think one thing that's important to note is if you are single, you are in a really good opportunity, because you can start these conversations from the beginning, which is so much easier. It's not that it's impossible to reverse engineer it, but it is easier if you lay the groundwork in the beginning. But some of the ways that I like are intimacy card games, pleasure societies from is local. Let's Fucking Date is another one that I like. When you have these conversations, go on a walk or a drive. I think sometimes it's easier to be out of the bedroom and not staring at each other when you have these conversations. Share something that was on a podcast, in a book, in this evening, and ask their thoughts on it. Tell them how much you love what they do. Start with I statements. I love when you do this. This feels really good, and go from there. And of course, you can send them a Vanillacooldance cartoon as well. Second thing I've learned is we are the worst at sabotaging our own pleasure. So how many of us have had an internal insecurity or thought that has popped out at the most inopportune moment? Perhaps it's, oh my God, I'm taking too long. Is it, what if he doesn't like how my labia looks? Or maybe even, oh my God, can he see my butthole in this? We are sabotaging our own pleasure. Because more likely, they are thinking, I love playing with you. You're so hot. Or fuck yeah, we can see your butthole. We are at Disney World. A real comment from it. So we have to quiet our inner critic. We all have insecurities. But for every insecurity you or I have, I will give you 1,000 others that share the same. We are not alone, and I promise you, if somebody is in the bedroom with you, they want to be there with you. And you thinking in your head is just taking you out of the moment. How are you possibly connecting with somebody on a deeper level if you are only listening to these thoughts? Okay. And then another communication thing that I think is important is get vulnerable and comfortable with the uncomfortable. So, of course, we have these thoughts about, and I think by not communicating it, you are also not giving somebody a chance to get to know you better. There is so much beauty that can happen from vulnerability. And of course, the wrong person will take advantage of your vulnerability, will not want to listen to your vulnerability, but then they are not your person and they are not going to help you get to the ultimate pleasure. So I think this is a really great example. Erectile dysfunction and like having trouble performing or staying hard is very common. But men or people with a penis have a lot of insecurity about communicating this. So oftentimes it comes out as, oh yeah, I'm really good at pulling out, or we don't have to use a condom, I can't feel anything. But just imagine if instead of having that conversation, somebody opened up and said, hey, actually, sometimes I can't get or stay hard, especially with a newer partner, and I'm really in my head about it because I like you and I want this to work out. And if they just shared a little, that totally changes the conversation. And the same goes with women. If we're insecure about something, if we experience pain, how many times have you pushed somebody away from you because you don't want them to be down there too long, or you're feeling awkward? If we were just able to open up a little bit, our pleasure would just be totally unlocked. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is get into BDSM. There's a lot we can learn from the kink community. There's no community that, in my opinion, can communicate better, because it's all about negotiation, boundaries, communication, to make sure you've created a safe space. This is not actually representative of a BDSM act, but I do think it is helpful when you're talking about how to have these conversations with the partner. Imagine if every sexual experience you had to talk about boundaries. I'm up for anything but penetration. I want us both to be present. Can you imagine if somebody said that? Hey, if I have sex with you, I want us to be present. I've had in relationships where I've had moments where I was like, oh fuck, I'm not really here right now. That's not nice. That's also not nice for them. So what boundaries do you set on the safe container that you've created with your partner? Desires. I'm in a playful mood and kind of want to be in charge. Perfect, I want to let go. Great, you're aligned. Go off. Go do your thing. Having talks about desires, setting that up from the beginning is really important. Safer sex, so yeah, sharing, what STDs you have you been tested, getting comfortable again with having these discussions, and then leading in aftercare. I've never had a conversation about meeting and aftercare until I've heard of this framework. Imagine doing that before. Hey, afterwards I'd love to be held for a little bit. Hey, afterwards, I need you to leave because actually I need my space to decompress. I don't know if this was something communicated up front. It's a way nicer, safe container for intimacy. And then lastly, at the end of the day, have a laugh. Sex is awkward, it's weird, there's bizarre sounds, you're gonna queef. You know, if the guy's an asshole to you because he queefed, he did that to you. He was the one pumping air at you. You're gonna fall on your head, you're gonna get stuck. Sex is funny and awkward, and it should be something you can laugh about. So if I could go back to the beginning of my date, I would have handled it way different. I would have actually shared with him how I experienced pleasure, what he could do to help me get there. Maybe it would have changed something. Maybe he also grew up watching the same porn that I grew up watching. Maybe he didn't know better. I'm sure he was also insecure. So at least to set that stage and give somebody the opportunity, get curious of people. Because I have to say, when I first realized that my pleasure was valid, I got really fucking angry. I was an asshole. I was an asshole partner. You're not gonna go down on me. I went down on you, sir. I would just say, you know, I didn't approach anything with understanding. That's also not a way to help our partners get on our journey. We have to approach things with curiosity and understanding. And so that's what I would have done. And at the end of the day, maybe I would have just sent him a Vanillacooldance cartoon. Thank you.